All right, Scott, let's go with colbyplus.com. We always talk about the buttery, quote unquote, neoprene, Yamamoto neoprene wetsuits. I want to point out accessories. Traction leashes, 20 bucks, 25 bucks. Tremendous deals that you can just add on to your wetsuit purchase.
Yeah, smoking good accessories and now's the time to buy accessories for our spring and summertime South Swell surf trips. It's always good to have an extra leash, some extra traction in your system, in your bag, in your travel gear. And yeah, Colby Plus.
They also make, believe it or not, small batch zinc in their warehouse in Santa Barbara, and it's tinted face block, sunblock for your face, basically, that goes on smooth, but then also doesn't migrate or like leak into your eyes or anything like that. And it's reef safe. It's SPF 30. So add on a little 2 ounce tin of that to your purchase. Everything they do is high quality and
I'm
straight.
absolutely getting me some of that zinc.
Yeah.
I'm big. I've been a big, since I had my little son skin cancer dealio. I'm big onto the sunscreen and to the zinc. I've been looking into all sorts of different sunscreens, and I'm gonna buy me a tin of that zinc from Colby Plus. Good thing to
Well,
have a little tin for your surf trip, you know?
yeah, totally. They use it's zinc oxide. So what I've learned from talking to different doctors over the years about skin cancer is that you want mineral based. So zinc is a mineral. It's chemical free, so that creates the UV barrier. But then also they use cocoa butter and there's avocado oil, cocoa powder. So it's all natural, basically. So good stuff. Go check out colbyplus.com. And then, of course, realwatersports.com for any and all of your water sport needs.
Heck to the yes. Our friends at Real Water Sports, they've got it covered. I just like getting their newsletter, man.
I know.
I get their newsletter and it's like, okay, we've got this. Okay, we've got, I mean, they are fast and furious with their great content. And as a guy who loves hard goods, they present a lot of stuff for me to kind of take in, be it surfboards, foil gear, kite gear, wetsuits. Of course, this is the season for new board shorts too. So
Well, you and I are creating content weekly. We look at guys like YouTube creators that are creating content weekly. Real Water Sports creates as much content as anybody else out there. And
yeah,
obviously, there's a retail interest and incentive, but even still, it all provides not only value, but entertainment, you know? So
yeah,
they're killing it. Follow their YouTube channel. That's what I would
yeah.
say.
There you go. Real water sports.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. David. You know what? Feels like summertime. No, it's springtime. Springtime, yeah, guy type of day. You are outside. Oh, by the way, this is the Spit Podcast. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass with you, and David drinking your coffee. Looks like a sunny, beautiful day. There's a Mexican tree blowing in the wind. The breeze is ruffling it. Look
I know. I
at
wish it
you.
wasn't so washed out in the back, but there's a golf course right here that you would love.
Oh,
I'm visiting my parents in Palm Springs area.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
All right.
Austin's inside playing with grandma and grandpa right now.
How warm is it in Palm Springs?
So yesterday it got up to about 90. But right now at 7:11 a.m., it is specifically 67.
Oh, that's perfect.
It'll get up to 89 by 3 o'clock today. So,
Ah,
but
that
they said they were wearing jackets last week. So this is like right at the moment where it transitions. And then next week they'll be moving up to the mountains for a few months.
oh, good for them. That
Yeah.
sounds like a good situation. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. They're good.
Okay.
Well, good to see
Well,
you.
yeah, I've got some stuff on tap. I've got a Who Said That, and there's a little bit of WSL news. I don't know. It's just been kind of crappy.
What?
I know you.
What do you
What?
mean a
I
little?
know
The
there isn't.
bells ran.
Yeah, but it was crap.
So I hate to state and then restate the obvious,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's something obviously that we've been talking about forever. But how hard is it to maintain your attention on these events that get dragged out over the course of weeks? And then when they do run, it's non-consequential and marginal conditions. Scott's
Well,
drinking
look.
his AG1 right now. That's why there was that lull.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's a low. I got my AG1 going. They sent me
Oh yeah,
I got a new dispenser.
the metal.
Yeah. Um, well, look, frankly, if I didn't have a fantasy team and I wasn't involved in survival league, survival league, but I'm not involved in survival league anymore. I lost along with a bunch of other people last event, but I do have a fantasy team and I do play in a group with about 25 guys here in the Encinitas area. And so I'm into it for that. Like I'm reshuffling my team. Like, I'm trying to play the right
Yeah.
after the elimination round. And so I'm into it for that. But you're right. I mean, and I will be excited about the WSL if it's 4 to 6 foot bells. I'll watch the finals day. I could find myself doing that, and that could happen. But right now, these early rounds, it's kind of like the early round of like the Palm Springs tennis tournament. Like I'm not watching it, but you tell me that we get to the finals day. I'm probably going to watch the last two guys go at it.
Yeah, so you're a casual fan of surfing now.
I think I am.
I mean, I hate, again, to state and then restate the obvious, but it really is hard to maintain attention. And it's like even prepping for the show, it's like, oh, wait, what happened? What? Who is, like this should just be all, we should be passionate about it ultimately. And the fact that we're not, I don't think says anything about our passion for surfing. It just says about the structure of the organization and how it's presented.
I think we've absolutely harped on this forever, and so listeners are like, oh God, not this again. So I almost think though that it's more it's not almost not even them as it is things have shifted, things have changed.
Okay,
The
say
way
more.
we take in content has changed. Um, that they're up against it. They're trying to produce events with Mother Nature. They don't have the right now. They don't have the ability to just fly to Peru and surf a perfect left point and have a competition there. They're just not. So you know, I don't know
Okay.
where I'm going with this. I'm going to shut up.
Well, we don't have to do it now, but I do want to talk about bells because I did make some notes about it.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the California Gold Surf Auction because we had a highly successful auction this weekend, and we had $4,300,000 in
What?
bids.
What?
$4,300,000 in bids. We sold over $250,000 in vintage, collectible, historically significant surfboards. So it was really quite a exciting Saturday evening in the auction space.
I think that
What?
deserves a congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, we sold a lightning bolt Jerry Lopez pipeliner for $35,000, and we had some other high numbers for some boards. So it was great. It was wonderful. We set some records, so it was good stuff. And
What were the records?
well, I mean, I just mentioned one. We've never sold a lightning bolt for $35,000 before.
What was the previous high?
I want to say like 17.
So
I think.
double.
Yeah.
Holy guacamole. What was the uniqueness about that board?
Well, it's a beautiful Jerry Lopez hand-shaped surfboard, a pipeliner. It had that sort of cool, like burgundy color to it, and a Clark foam blank. But really, it's the power of the auction. You get two people that want that board, and they're not going to be denied, and so they kind of went at it. They kind of battled for it, and so, um, it it went way above and beyond what we anticipated. But that's, like I said, that's sort of the beauty of the auction environment.
Can I ask you, what does this mean for how does this alter your perception on the market of surfboards in general or the economy at large and what's happening? Because it's all doom
Well,
and gloom otherwise.
yeah, I think that I think that guys like me that might have $1,500 or $2,000 to invest in a hard asset like a vintage surfboard might be a little bit more hesitant, maybe. Um, but people that aren't affected by that have enough liquidity, that have capital, that have money, they're not as affected by sort of the news cycle of the economy. You know what's happening in the economy, because certainly, and I'm not an expert. I'm not going to go into tariffs or any of that. I'm the last guy you want to hear talk about that stuff. But certainly, as you mentioned, the news cycle is, the facts on the ground. The experts of the experts are kind of scratching their head, and that makes people a little wary. They're sitting on their hands a little bit regarding purchases. But I think in the auction space, in the, like it's obviously it didn't affect us.
I am surprised to hear that. I mean, was this the strongest auction you guys have had?
No, we've had a little bit better, but this was a good one. Like because I was worried, quite frankly. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see what's going to happen with the economy here. But people stepped up, and frankly, vintage surfboards, they hold their value and they go up in value. That's been proven out here over the past 15, 20 years. So, um,
So my
there's always some that drop a little bit, but the prime stuff is still the prime stuff.
so my experience, in my limited experience around the surf world, limited to let's say 10 to 15 years it working in the surf world. Um, I haven't seen a lot of cycles, right? But I work with people who have been through decades of cycles. And the advice that they say is like, look, if you're a board builder specifically, you build your business on the core, and then you will get these boon times like COVID or whatever. And it's okay to service that, but don't really scale up your expenses side because you won't be able to accommodate that. Once things kind of contract back, you won't be able to cover your costs at that point. So just focus on the core. And if you have a boon year, maybe you can't even and then you can service, that's okay. Let that slough off, let that go to a competitor, but just focus on the core and you'll always be okay because ultimately people who live by the coast who like surfing will still need to buy surfboards this year, next year. And if they can afford to live by the coast, they can afford to buy a surfboard, right? So I think that's pretty salient and good advice. But what we've been going through now is not only a contraction for the surf world, but then these external global economic factors. And when people feel uncertainty and their 401k, has plummeted and all that sort of stuff, but more the uncertainty, they don't want to let go of cash. And so I see for people who do run a lean or a small business, let's say, that they're the ones who start feeling the pinch is consumers aren't spending money, they're having a harder time because they just don't have the volume and the amount of capital uh stockpiled to get through the lean times. So that's the kind of uncertainty and that I hear and the worry that I hear in the surf world. But to hear what you're saying with the auction also validates another thing that I've been seeing, which is this separation. They're like an erosion of the middle class, basically.
Yeah.
So those, like you said, who have more than ever actually, and they're still thriving. And so they can actually, the top end of the market will actually go up. The middle of the market goes away, and the bottom of the market is struggling to stay alive, kind of, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the case, right? The greatest, perhaps the greatest asset that we have is the middle class, and yeah, it's
Well,
it's
for I'm just speaking, I was raised middle class and I still, I think, land in the middle class, but my generation grew up with the ambition of elevating out of the middle class into the upper middle class or the lower upper class. and very, very, very few of my cohort has, you know, and it's kind of been the opposite erosion where everybody's just kind of taken on debt and then servicing that and trying to get ahead, but never quite getting ahead, always getting behind. And so that's just what I've seen. And maybe I'm in an echo chamber, you know, of people who just kind of live a certain way or try to keep up in Southern California kind of a thing. I'm not sure, but the auction results make me almost kind of validate that to a certain degree, which is just, yeah, the wealthy are still doing well, you know? So interesting.
The other thing I want to mention, which we talked about last week, is the best in show category, because I've been fielding a lot of questions about it. So I just want to clarify that the best in show board build off, the category is fish. And we're asking you to build us your best fish with wooden accents and meaningful symbology. And people have been going, well, what is that? What do you mean? You know, and I'm purposely being sort of opaque about it so that you, the board builder, and by the way, this is open to any board builder around the world. It's for free. There's $3,500 in cash and prizes. Last year's winner, Nick Heinrich, received $1,000 in a booth at the show. Nico from Wave Gliders got $500 in a booth at the show. So those prizes are out there. It's open for everyone. So back to what I was saying, a fish, wooden accents, meaningful symbology. If you have any questions about that, just take those questions and internalize them. Ask yourself what it means to you. Don't look to me to give you more guidance than what I've already given you. I'm making it, you know, very, like I say, opaque and open-ended on purpose because we want creativity. I want to be wide open here. So fish, wooden accents, meaningful symbology. Let's have fun with it. It's the best in show board build off. In many ways, David, it's kind of, well, it is like the British Bake Off. If you've watched that show, the Great British Bake Off or whatever it's called, where they present you with something to bake, but they add ingredients to make it sort of to throw you a curveball, so to speak. So it might be something like, you know, bake us some rye sourdough bread, but it has to have pimento olives, and we'd like you to include, you know, some sort of herb with that, you know, or something like that. So that's what we're doing. We want a fish with wooden accents and meaningful symbology. It gives you an opportunity as a builder to tell a story about that's meaningful to you, and you know, it could be anything. It could be um, you know, your high school diploma. It could be your grandfather's Purple Heart from the Vietnam War. It could be you know, your a story about your children, or you know, any sort of meaningful symbology that tells a story. And again, it's wide open, you know.
I would like to state, I love the idea. And last week I was trying to pin you down on like how do you define a fish? Are there certain characteristics that have to be? And I'm taking the exact opposite approach this week is I want to embrace the art element of it. I do like having parameters so that you know, terms are defined, basically. I think that's important. But in surfing in general, it's also important to play jazz. I think it's almost more important to play jazz. And a lot of the wonderful um, you know, design evolutions or revolutions or whatever come out of that outside of the norm thinking. And so I'm all about this. I think this is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I know. I always love the build off. It's so cool to see all those boards in the best in show exhibit at the boardroom show. And oh, by the way, we're actively looking for a sponsor for this. So if there's a company out there that wants to be adjacent and aligned with authentic surf craftsmen, this is a great time to get involved. And of course, you'll get 6 months worth of branding and me talking about it. It'll be the best in show board build off presented by your company.
I like it. I love it. Okay. Where do we go?
Well, what do you got for me?
I'm gonna start. I do want to start with Bells.
Okay.
Ramsey's injury. Did you see this video?
I didn't see the video, but I read about it,
You
and
got to watch the video, dude. It's crazy.
he just gets washed around in the shore pound and stuff.
I mean, look, I'm definitely not victim blaming here. I just want to state that. Even
Yeah.
by me stating that, it makes it sound like I'm going to. But it seemed totally random, like a freak accident, but at the
Mhm.
same time seemed almost avoidable. He's walking in. So he finished the heat. He's in waist deep water, maybe thigh deep water, and he's walking in. And I guess there's patches of reef as you walk in.
Mhm.
He simultaneously, as he puts his foot down, a wave hits him from behind, like a pretty strong wave hits him from behind. So, number one, his back is to the ocean, and he did not anticipate this wave coming. But as he puts his foot down, it looks like he puts it into a hole in the reef, like he was walking on what looked like flat reef, or he thought was flat reef. And then he stepped in a hole simultaneously as this wave hits him in the back of the hips. And so his foot goes in a hole, gets stuck, and that wave pushes him forward. And then apparently either torques his knee. It looked like a knee that got ultimately torqued. But he instantly, you could see, was in incredible pain and was begging for help. And I guess the words that he was saying to Italo and the other competitor was, I'm done. He was just like, I'm done. I'm done. Like he knew instantly based on how much pain he was in that he was done, maybe for the season or whatever. It's really, really hard to watch actually to see somebody get injured like that. And again, freak accident didn't happen while he was surfing a wave. He was actually leaving the heat. So super tragic. And the other thing that's tragic about this is Ramsey spent his first year injured, like his rookie year. He was campaigning on the QS for, I feel, a decade and always kind of nosing right there to get in. And then finally he qualified and he spent his first year injured with a broken ankle. And now this happened in his second year back on tour.
Yeah, I'm watching some of it here, and it's weird that the videos on YouTube just have still images of his face cringing. Like there's no actual video of him doing it. I think maybe that WSL has a clampdown on it because
Maybe
these videos I'm watching aren't WSL videos. They're
I'll try to find I'll try to find the video of it and send it to you.
but it looks horrible. I can see. I mean, there is some video here, yeah. So, yeah, just
Terrible.
terrible. And you're right. It's almost like lightning striking twice here. It's unfortunate as all get out because he was having he was surfing great, right? His backside attack was just really sharp, and he looked like this was a year where we're going to see him make the cut and be involved.
Well, let's talk about that backside because you last week we were talking about potential fantasy picks, and you're like, leave it to I like the backsiders. I like the goofy footers out at Bells. Well, I ran some stats. Do you want to guess how many goofy footers are on tour right now?
Out of the what 30 something,
Yeah, out of the 30 something.
I'm going to say there's 12.
Nine.
Okay.
And among those nine, three won their heats. And of the
Oh,
remaining, I guess that would be six,
yeah.
two were already eliminated.
Oh,
So, and the two that were eliminated were David Silva and Ian Govea. So the ones that won their heat were kind of fit the profile of what you were talking about. It's Connor O'Leary, all about timing, Italo, who's just going to win everything, and then Cole Houshman, who's kind of comes from that Aki
yeah.
camp or Aki style of surfing, anyways. So
And Yago, right?
Iago didn't win his heat. I don't think
Oh,
he didn't go to the elimination round, but he didn't win his heat. So
right.
he's one of the nine.
Okay.
But kind of interesting just to hear and see how few goofy footers there are on tour also. Like I never really realized that before. And obviously there's no lefts on dedicated lefts on tour, which they complain about, but it does seem really lopsided.
Yeah, it is lopsided. It's always been that way.
Yeah,
But you know what? They get cloud break, make the top five. You're gonna go get a
there
killer
you go.
left.
Well, that's right. There is the one dedicated left on tour, though it's not actually on the main season. So the other big story coming out of this, so they ran basically a full day. So round one of the men and women, and then an elimination round for the men and women. So we already saw surfers eliminated. Among them were on the women's side, Vahini Fierro, who's under the cut line, just FYI, which I'm kind of surprised to see.
Yeah.
And then the women's wild card, Carly Shanahan got eliminated. And then on the men's side, Edgar Grogia, David Silva, Ian Govea, and then Ramsey Bukaim, of course, due to his injury. Um, but the big story is Al Cleland once again smokes Felipe Toledo.
Al Cleland's the most exciting story for 2025. I don't think there's any doubt, right?
We'd love to see it, dude. I mean, it's interesting. I know you've been claiming him since before the season
He's old school.
started.
He's old school.
He really is. It's
His whole
exciting to watch.
attitude, his whole attitude is old school.
Yeah,
He's like he's like Simon Anderson meets John Parmenter. Like he's like gonna have a beer after his heat. You know what I mean? And and he's gonna have more than one. He might have three beers, and he's gonna have a bean and cheese burrito, but he's gonna go out and just like slay incredible power hacks. He's kind of like Dane Reynolds in a weird way. He's kind of got this devil may care kind of approach to it all. And I don't know, it's refreshing because he's just not that sort of managed. You get the feeling that he's got managers, but there's two bros from Mexico that are like trying to hunt down an Uber for him. You know what I mean? Like he's he's not getting like PR classes, and he's not going to, you know what I mean? He's just,
totally.
it's refreshing that
It's refreshing. So
yeah,
he's from my perspective, he's not a super attractive surfer. Like when he's up and riding on a wave, it's not as beautiful, let's say, as Ethan Ewing, but he's so explosive. Once he goes into a section, it's full speed and he gives it 100%. There's no element of like, I need to nurse this for a 6. It doesn't matter if he needs if he needs a 4, he's still going for a 10. And so that's what's exciting to watch. You can't look away. In fact, I'm tuning into heats just to
yeah.
watch him because of this. So I'm a big fan as well. And this is a new storyline. Him and Felipe is a storyline. Like they've surfed 2 events in a row, and he was the underdog in both. He smashed him at a venue that you would think Felipe would have smashed Al. In fact, I did say, oh, that's an easy win for Felipe, El Salvador. Al smashed him at his own game. And then out here, within 5 minutes, he had like an 8 and a 7 on the board. And then both surfers were up against the wall. It's
Yeah,
impressive.
it very much is impressive. He's raw, he's powerful. And the thing about Al is that that's how he surfs all the time. Like it's
Right.
not like he's like ramping up for the event. That's just the way he was brought up to surf. And mostly it's due to the fact that he surfs incredibly powerful waves. He learned to surf in incredibly powerful, intense waves. And so his surfing matches that. That's really all he knows. It's not like he trained at lowers for 15 years, and he's like
Yeah.
thrown into some crazy situation surf wise and is concerned about what to do. He's just like, bring it. And I think the natural instinct contest that they had, is that what it's called? Natural instinct?
Natural selection.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Natural selection. Sorry. That really, those types of events are perfect for him.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
look,
I have a
he's
follow up.
hard not to like.
I have a follow up thought on everything that you said about him. The lack of, let's say, polish and training and the enjoyment of a couple of beers. Is that a sustainable game plan on tour after, by year 5?
He might need to adapt a little bit. In many ways, it's like Kong. Kong came out and he was Kong, and he was just, and they put out videos of him just being Kong, and he was all power all the time, and then he became Gary Elkerton.
Mm.
He admonished the press. He said, "Don't call me Kong any longer." And he became quite professional and very polished. He got hooked up with OP, was his sponsor, and he became a professional surfer in the sense that you see today, like that are polished, managed, think about their schedule, think about what they're eating. Like he evolved, and that could certainly occur in a very natural way with Alan if he wants it to. You know what I mean?
If he
And,
becomes Alan,
well, just
that would be the exact
the
transition.
surfing stays the same, but you know, you turn 29, you have a kid, all of a sudden you rearrange your priorities and you realize that you can continue this lifestyle, but you're going to have to make some adjustments.
Mick Fanning's the other more modern example of that. I mean, when he had an alter ego named Eugene that they actually made a movie, Me, Myself, and Eugene, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
And it was just, once that switch flips, usually at the after party, midway through the after party, Eugene comes out and goes nuts. And then Mick became the consummate professional. And that's what he's known as now. Nobody even remembers Eugene. I think what's interesting to look at is where did the results come? Like for Kong, were his better results when he was Kong or when he was at Gary Elkerton?
I don't have it all in front of me, but my sense is that when he was Gary Elkerton, he was a formidable force. When he was Kong, it was almost like, I mean, they were putting out performers. Quicksilver was putting out videos of him and Rabbit and Chappie Jennings, and he was as much a marketing tool as he
Yeah.
was anything. And I think that's part of the thing that made him change. He was like, you know what, this thing they created isn't really what I'm about. And it was fun when I was 20, but now that I'm 26, or you know what I mean? Like he matured a little bit and he saw the industry for what it is, that they were just kind of, he wanted to be his own man.
Yeah. Well, so my initial thought with Al Cleland is he's going to burn out and it's not going to be sustainable and the lifestyle won't allow him to continue with the rigors of the tour once you're not 22 anymore, basically. And because of his personality too, like it's not just the beer, it's the personality. When you're living your life or you're wired that way, the tour becomes monotonous and it becomes boring. And again,
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
sitting at Bells or El Salvador for 2 weeks and then surfing 4 marginal days is not how you want to spend your time. And so we saw that happen with Dane Reynolds or probably a ton of other people. But my follow-up thought is we as viewers and also judges need to see chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 of your career. And so when somebody like Felipe comes back to win his third title and he's surfing exactly like he did in title 1 and 2, they don't give him the scores that he deserves. It's just not that interesting anymore. They want him to reinvent himself. And we've seen Idolo go through a successful reinvention. We've seen Gabriel Medina go through a successful reinvention. And I think that this almost sets Al up to have a logical reinvention chapter, Like if he comes out with this and does really well and then comes back, year 3 or 4 with a more polished version that does look like Ethan Ewing, we can hang our hat on that too.
Well, a couple things. One is this might not be able to be sustained. And by the way, I'm not saying he's drinking all the time. I just use that as an example of
He
he's not,
publishes this. You're not saying
but he's not,
anything that's speculative.
yeah, but he's not. My point is that he's in great shape and he's surfing professionally and he's geared and he's winning and wants to win and he's competitive. But I think one of the things that may occur is that he's going to get photos from his father and videos from his friends, and he's going to be missing really good days
Totally.
where he lives, and that's fine the first couple of years. But I mean, I even remember hearing from Rabbit Bartholomew, he would say like, it would just kill me if Kira was going off, my home break was going off and I was missing. And in fact, I think there's one story he tells where he like flew from Hawaii because his friend said Kira's going off. He like did an all-nighter flight, surfed Kira, and then flew back to Hawaii or something like that. And so after, the first couple of years, let's say 3 years, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm missing it at my home break. And I know it's just spitting insane peaks, best beach breaks ever. But here I am living my dream. I'm competing on the tour. I'm getting paid. My sponsors are giving me money. This is all good. But around year 4 or 5 of that, it does, as you mentioned, get kind of old. And it could be the case that, you see Tahitians like this,
Yeah.
like when you are from a spot that is just epic all the time, it gets kind of hard to be surfing 3 to 4 foot onshore bells.
Yeah, homesickness. That's all part of homesickness. And then the other detail here is for guys like Gabriel Medina, competitiveness and winning trumps any homesickness or even wanting to surf great waves. And I think that was true for Kelly too, is they're willing to miss the good day at home because they want a world championship more than anything else. And I don't know that Al Cleland was cut from that same cloth.
Well, we don't know. I don't know the guy. Like, I'm not sitting here and telling you that I have backstory or inside information. So we don't know that. He might be hyper competitive. I mean, he's competed his whole life. I mean, I don't know. He's done really good in the ISA events, and he's competitive. But yeah, look, more will be revealed. Let's see what happens in year 4 and 5, but right now he's a breath of fresh air. He's and the other thing is with Alan, even if he leaves after year 3, there at least now, as you've mentioned many times, there are other paths for him to explore as a professional surfer. Quicksilver could just go, let's put this guy in the heaviest situation over, and let's just do a YouTube channel with Alan Cleland and his buddies, Soli Bailey, and let's get these, because this is, as you've often mentioned, this is the downside of the new state of content and what we're in regarding the WSL, is that you and I want to see Alan Cleland, and we will tune away from other things, i.e. the WSL event, to go watch Alan Cleland at Natural Selection or wherever. Like,
yeah,
well, the waves are the stars, and if you put these people in these waves, we're going to tune in, and it trumps 3-foot blown out crap.
They've done this successfully with Mikey Wright recently,
Mikey Febbs
too. Yeah, you're right. And so the other thing that I was thinking watching this event was how important it is to have characters that we are engaged with. And the fact that you and I have just spent 15 minutes dissecting what we know or what we want to know or what we hope we get to know in the future about this guy, simply because he goes all out on a wave, we're invested in him already. You and I are invested in Al Cleland, and we're watching his story, and we just want to know more and see more. So I think that's exactly the stuff that the WSL would need to foster if they could, or at least embrace and help amplify, because we're in.
I mean, I look at the list, the rankings for the men on the CT. Elo Ferreira is exciting on a bunch of different levels. He's interesting. We're engaged in Elo, no matter what he's doing. If he's putting on sunscreen or surfing wave pools, whatever, And you go down the list, and most of these guys are kind of, like the first 3 are interesting. Baron Mamiya is a great surfer. I don't know if he's, super interesting beyond him surfing in really good, powerful waves. Miguel Pupo, I don't know. Maybe he's interesting. Rio Wada, maybe, but Jack Robinson sticks out as a guy like, oh, okay, Jack, like he's interesting beyond what he does in perfect waves. Kanoa Igarashi, maybe he's a little vanilla. I don't know. There's just certain guys that you're drawn to for whatever reason. And I think it has to do with just their natural personalities. It seems like Alan Cleland's just like one of the boys, as opposed to a professional surfer.
Yep. And a bit of a throwback, which we like.
Yeah.
Moving on from Al, I do want to mention Morgan Siblick got into this event by winning the trials event, which he's done, I think, 3 years in a row now.
Yeah.
He's the real deal. Obviously, he made a huge splash his first year on tour and then didn't requalify. It's crazy for me to see how little of a difference there is between a lucrative living on tour or then working as a sales rep and a B-list pro surfer, because he has the same amount of talent and his life would be one or the other based on really variables that are uncontrollable. The structure of the tour and the bloat and the amount of downtime and the amount of the marginal conditions they surf in, the lack of waves in a given heat, that sort of stuff will relegate you to not being on tour anymore and then never requalifying again. But we get to see him come back through this trial event and then surf as a wild card. And you're like, that level of surfing is right there in the top 5. He's
Well,
incredible.
as you know, the interesting thing about him is that he actually shined in crappy surf. Like he was a COVID year, the 2019 or 2020 year, whatever year it was. That's when we saw Morgan Siblick rise. He,
Come out of nowhere. Yeah.
yeah, and those conditions in that year, weren't that great, and the waves that the places they got to surf weren't that great, based because of the situation around COVID. So he came from kind of the crap, and I remember we were kind of going, okay, well, when there's a real tour, quote unquote, what's he going to do at Pipe or whatever, and it wasn't that he didn't do well, but everybody else came on with a strong purpose, and so it's good to see like sort of like 2.0.
He's the real deal. And I'd be excited if he made it his way back onto tour. So it was great to see a glimpse of him once again. The other thing you mentioned, Italo. I take back everything I ever said about him.
Wait a minute. If you're going to do that, you have to say everything you ever said about him so we know exactly what it is that you're taking back.
Okay. His fast twitch style, his Tasmanian devil energy, those are the things that I've identified as being kind of unappealing. Yeah. He is smooth as at Bells. Like Bells is a spot that you would think would highlight those shortcomings, or that style of surfing won't translate at Bells. Go watch his heats. He's riding a long board. There's no glitch in his giddy up at all. There's no multiple phase bottom turn. It's just he gets up, leans into a massive bottom turn, boom, blows the back out, big round, boom, comes into another bottom turn, boom, big open face carve, just all one fluid motion, and also like accentuating the turn at the exact right moment to time it with the maximum amount of spray through the, like, he's an incredible surfer, and I can't fault him.
I first of all, Bells, as you know, sort of makes you surf that way. You have to slow down a little bit. You have to let the wave come to you. You just can't get up and start pumping your arms and expect some section that you kind of got to wait for it. It's fat wave. Let's be clear. It's a good wave, but it's a pretty much a slopey wave.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Totally agree. But that's what I'm saying is the fact that he
adapt
to that showcases the difference between him and I don't know who else I would put in. I don't want to shade anybody else who, a Jadson Andre, let's say.
A lot of shade. You can't throw shade on somebody who's not on tour.
I just don't think I remember Jadson making that transition that Italo did, where it's smooth rail to rail as much as it's just banking from one rail to the next.
Yeah.
So Italo is that talented to where he can do the fast twitch thing when he needs to, but then when he's at Bells, he's won Bells before. So
frankly, this is the best version of Italo we've ever seen. I think Italo is probably going to win the tour. I mean, if let's look at his, he's 8,000 points ahead of second place. He's in first place. He's 8,000 points. He's got incredible results. I guess he didn't have such a great result at the last event in El Salvador, but, he's on his game. I mean, he had his incredible Olympic run and his world title. Then he went through this, watch some hot chick put like suntan lotion on his body, and like he did like that sort of social media thing. And you sense that he's very focused. Not that he's not just still doing that stuff, but I think he's more focused than he was, say, a year and a half ago. Yeah. And I feel like if this was an Olympic year or the next year was an Olympic year, I could see Italo going WCT champion and the second gold medal. Like Italo is, he looks professional. Like he looks like it's time to get another world title.
Undoubtedly. And we talked about this year as being a little bit of an asterisk year because John's not on tour, Gabriel's not on tour. And so this will be an opportunity for somebody like a Jordy or a Leonardo Fioravanti or somebody to just kind of jump into that spot. Yeah. But Italo has stomped his dominance, stamped his dominance on this year as a
Yeah.
replacement for those other two surfers I named, and being an equal to, like, he is an equal to John
Absolutely.
and Gabriel. No question about it. And then it, even though I would prefer a Jordy to win the title, I wouldn't want Jordy to win his title in a year where there wasn't world-class competition. And so I love seeing Italo do this because it gives Jordy a real target to aim at and be like, all right, sweet. Now I've got 8,000 point delta to make up right now. Here I come. I'm going to win bells.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's gonna be fun. Idolo's just he's another guy that you want to keep your eyes on him. You know, you can't look away.
Well, the one I'm looking to right now is Ethan Ewing because he is on my fantasy team. He has drawn Ryan Callanan in round 1 of the round of 32. I feel pretty good about this, but I'm apprehensive to say that because those are famous last words. And
Hey, hold that thought. Hold that thought and I'm sorry to interrupt you midstream there, but speaking of streams, I got to go get some more
drink
AG1.
drinkag1.com/surf is where we're going to close this section out. We will be back after commercial. So Ethan Ewing being my survival pick, he drew Ryan Callanan. Ryan Callanan has not won a heat this year.
I know.
And he's coming off of injury, so it is what it is. But I'm feeling if I ever had to pick a fantasy matchup,
Yeah.
this is one that I would feel pretty confident in picking. But those are famous last words, so I'm going to hold out optimism until they serve.
So you're telling me that you think Ryan Callahan's going to beat Ethan Ewing? Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't think he is. No, I feel very good about my pick with Ethan. I've been burned too many times to get
Oh,
excited.
he's your
about it.
survival pick. Is that what you're saying?
Ethan is my survival pick.
Okay.
Yes.
You said fantasy pick. I was like,
Oh,
I didn't know
sorry.
you played fantasy.
Sorry, survival.
Survival. Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
it's a safe.
yeah, it's pretty safe. It's pretty safe,
Yeah.
but you never know.
Yeah. On the women's side, real quick, women behind the cut right now. Names I would not anticipate: Brissa Hennessy, Betty Lou, Sakura Johnson. I would pick to be in a top 5. Vahini Fierro, which is a bummer, and Sally Fitzgibbons behind the cut line this year. So kind of shocking to see those.
Yeah, Sally Fitzgibbons is in line to become the WSL commissioner. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
she's been on tour for a long time. She's quite competitive, and she's one that will be involved in ISA events and be on the Australian team forever. It seems like so Sally doesn't really surprise me.
No.
But I would love to see both Brisa and Betty Lou and Vahini
I know.
move up and make the cut. But
Yeah.
God, you look at the girls, the girls are exciting. You know, it's hard to pick a girl that could be replaced by those 3. So
Well,
anyway.
as we move out of Bells in the next week, we look to Burley. Burley's replacing Snapper as an event, and they actually did the Burley Board Riders event there like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's a sick event. The waves look super rippable. So obviously it's nowhere good when it's good, it's still not nearly as good as when Snapper is good.
Yeah.
Snapper is a world-class wave, but it's still super rippable and I think provides for certainly contestable conditions, if not world-class, but gave us a little peek at what we could anticipate potentially.
Yeah. Burley's going to be fun. It's going to be new. It's going to be different, and it's got a ton of history. So could be good. Could be interesting.
Did you see this sad story coming out of Munich's river wave?
Yeah.
Holy cow, dude.
Guy was pinned down.
A woman.
Oh, it was a woman.
April 16th, an unnamed 33-year-old woman had her leash stuck to the bottom and she had to get rescued. I'll just read directly from this article, but it said witnessing the accident, other surfers tried to remove the leash and release the victim, but failed due to the strong current. I mean, you've seen, it's a river. It's just a ripping current.
Yeah.
And the scene was dramatic, with the surfer crying for help before being pulled underwater. After struggling for about half an hour in the rushing water, she was ultimately rescued by fire officials who performed resuscitation efforts and took the victim to the hospital where she was stable but in critical condition. The incident resulted in the closing resulted in closing of the Eisbach River wave indefinitely. The local authorities made the decision to prevent further accidents based on the fact that the existing risk could not be ruled out. Ultimately, they can't figure out what her leash was connected to. The area has been cordoned off and marked with warning signs. Access to the surfing venue is now prohibited. Experts will develop a plan to investigate the cause of the accident, but completely draining the area is nearly impossible. As a result, the city officials are considering lowering the water level to check what may have entangled the surfer's leash. So I can't tell. I mean, obviously, there's no way she was underwater for the whole 30 minutes. It seems like maybe she had just enough leash to like have her head above water for a period of time, struggling to, and people were diving down to try to get her leash out and then getting swept away. So that's where the dramatic scene that they were talking about. But eventually she did go underwater, and within who knows how long she was under until the officials were able to get her out. But it sounds absolutely harrowing and scary. So,
Well, I'm glad she's made it out. I hope she's doing better.
what are have you ever been in the scenario where your leash is caught and you need to go underwater to unhook it?
Have you ever? This is a have you ever moment. I can't recall a time when I was stuck and I had to release my leash to to be liberated. No.
I've heard of this happening, of course. I've never experienced it either. And I remember at a certain point them making those pull tabs. It was like a one pull thing where you could release the leash. I don't think those really exist anymore. I wonder why. Um, but leashes are so well made. Like I will struggle to get my leash off while I'm standing on land. I'm in ankle deep water and I'll reach down thinking I could just do a one like
I
pull,
know.
like grip the thing with your finger and just like rip it in one pull. So I stand on one leg for a second, reach down to do it, and I end up having to put my leg down and try again because I can't do it in that balancing act. I need like three
Yes.
efforts to get it off, you know?
Yes. This is I don't know what this is. I feel like this might be a middle-aged thing.
Could
You know,
be.
there's a crazy video on YouTube from probably 20 years ago with Flea on the rocks at Mavericks, and his leash is stuck and he's just getting worked and his board's bobbing and he can't get his leash off. And
I don't
there's
remember that
there's
one.
there's a few videos out there of this horrible conundrum.
Yeah, scary.
David, I have a who said that if you're
Okay,
ready.
I am ready.
Okay. This is the segment of the show called Who Said That? Who. I really want to know. Um, where I quote a famous human and you try to guess who this human is. David, who said that? And I quote, the idea came from an incident in 1967 during the Israeli Arab conflict, in which an Israeli colonel led one of the most brilliant armored runs in history. He also happened to be and was a skin diver. They had pictures of him in Life magazine with his goggles on. He brought all his skin diving equipment on this military campaign. He had a very small unit, and the odds are 10 to 1 against him. But his unit and he broke through, chopped up all of this Egyptian armor, took his objective. And where his objective was, there happened to be a certain kind of fish or abalone or something that was found only in that area. The colonel had his tank circle up in a defensive position, and he went skin diving. Just this sort of ultimate kind of counting coup, just slapping the face of the enemy. He'd be down there in battle, and it's like, oh, I'll go skin diving. I'll take fish from their waters. And I thought, that's exactly what a warrior would do. David, who said that? Was it one, Denny Auberg, two, Peter Townend, three, John Milius, or four, Sam George?
Pizzo. Who knows? What are they even talking about? What are they reference? What are they utilizing this story to reference? I'm gonna say Danny Auberg.
Denny Auberg? No, you're wrong. It's not Denny Auberg. Of course, Denny wrote Big Wednesday with the person, John Milius, who this quote is attributed. And this is a quote where Milius is talking about the scene in Apocalypse Now, where Colonel
Oh,
Kilgore lands with Lance and they go surf the point after they've shot up the Vietnamese enemy, the North Vietnamese. Or
that would have been much too much of a clue.
yeah, so I had to left that out, but that's where this incident came from. It was an actual moment that Milius had read about, and he's like, you know what? When the colonel and his unit take the campaign and then he goes skin diving, we'll have Colonel Kilgore take the campaign, set his unit down, and he and Lance are going to go surf a killer little surf, Charlie's Point.
Amazing.
Charlie
Great
don't
bit of
surf.
history.
Yeah. So that's John Milius.
I when I interviewed Billy Hamilton a number of years ago, he told an incredible story about getting punched by John Milius.
No way. I'd love to hear that. What happened?
I forget now. It
That
was a
sounds
it was a
great.
it was a dispute over money for sure about like some deal that they were going to do. Um, yeah, I'm apprehensive to even try to retell it because I totally am going to get all the details wrong. But yeah, it was a lot of money and it resulted in a punch and then him not getting his money.
I remember I was on the beach in Oceanside in the 80s at the Oceanside Longboard Surfing Contest, and I was sitting next to Scott Hewlett and Sam Ryan. At the time, Scott was the manager at the Longboard Grotto, and Sam Ryan was the owner. And I believe they were, and I could be butchering this story a little bit, so I apologize if I am, but I believe they were selling, what's the logo? The Bear surfboards. So they were selling the Bear surfboard longboards out of the Longboard Grotto. And apparently Billy Hamilton had the license for the Bear logo.
This might
And
be what it had to do with then.
and he walked up to, or he sat down quietly next to Sam. He introduced himself. He didn't know Scott Hewlett or Sam Ryan. He said, "Hey, I'm Billy Hamilton." And they were, of course, stoked because they know who Billy Hamilton is. They're like, "Oh, cool. Billy Hamilton's saying hi to us." And basically Billy really quietly just basically kind of read him the riot act in a quiet way, just like real matter, like a mafioso would do. Like, if you sell one more of these Bear surfboards, I'm going to break every bone in your, something like that. Again, I'm kind of butchering it. I'm embellishing it probably. I think Scott Hewlett could tell the story way more accurately because I remember then Billy got up and laughed. And I remember, and I was sitting there with these guys and they're like, looked over at me and they're like, "Oh my God, that was like the heaviest thing I've ever had to deal with." Billy Hamilton, who is our hero, just kind of laid into us a little bit and told us to stop in not so friendly terms. And so I'd love to hear Billy Hamilton's story with Milius. That sounds very
Yeah.
interesting.
Now that you say that, the surfboard licensing, that factors into the story too, I believe.
Yeah, it might be the Bear surfboards because they use those
Yeah.
in Big Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, I'm apprehensive to even say it, but I want to say it
Yeah.
was something like that. Like he licensed it to Milius to use for the film, and there was supposed to be some payout in the end based on the success of the film and the usage of that. And then he came to collect the money, and Milius basically wasn't going to pay him.
Yeah. I'm sure. I bet it was something
he
similar
was
to
up.
that.
He was apparently on his rounds collecting money.
I think he was.
Stopped off in San Diego on his way up to LA.
Milius is like, "Dude, this movie lost money. What are you talking about? I can't
Yeah,
pay you any
right.
money. We didn't make any money on
That's
Big
what they
Wednesday."
always say. Well, good who said that. Thank you. Educational as always. Um, just kind of a side note. Did you see Martin Daly post that Instagram about those Crocs at Macaronis?
No.
Oh my gosh, dude.
What happened? Show
Just
me.
shot from the boat, looking down at giant crocodiles chilling in the channel at Macaronis. And he's
You're
like,
kidding.
no. And he's like, in all of my years, like never have I seen this. And like something is changing. Mother Nature is changing in some ways, but it's one thing to think about the threats that we know exist
Yeah.
in the ocean, predators, but a
Yeah.
croc is an apex predator who has, I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
so scary.
Yeah. That's super gnarly. I didn't. So there's mangroves right there at Macaronis. It's super low lying mangroves. All those islands, they're sinking into the ocean.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Crocs are probably losing some of their terrain. And then they're like, oh, you know what? We can just spit out here inside the bay at Macaronis and feed. Wow, that's pretty
The
good.
idea the idea that they're even that close is scary, but the idea that they're now in the lineup. So he goes, he specifically said rumors of Crocs at one of my most favorite waves that I've been surfing for over 40 years are rumors no longer. Big fella has been here for quite a while. Saw another only slightly smaller last year at a nearby break. First I've seen here. Surfing with apex predators is not optimal. They have left us alone up until now.
I'm trying to pull it up myself.
Yeah. So
Well,
spooky, dude.
yeah, that's gnarly. Indies Trader.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got it. Whoa.
Things are
How do we
freaky.
know this croc is in the channel at I could s- I could
You
see
could
Martin
see.
just putting this out just to scare people off. That's
That's a good
definitely
point.
not beyond Martin to do that.
That's hilarious.
But wow.
Um, well, couple of closing thoughts. Kelly Slater wins the
Oh, I heard this.
lifetime achievement award
This is
at the
pretty big
Laureus.
news. Pretty big
Yeah,
news.
apparently,
Like
yeah.
he was in there with like Ronaldo and all these. Like who was he up against? Tom Brady and some people like that. Or
Well, he wasn't up against him, but the award has only been given 14 times since the year 2000. So in 25 years, it's only been gifted out 14 times. But yeah, Pele has won, Billie Jean King has won, Tom Brady won in 2022. And so Kelly is the 14th recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Laureus World Sports Academy. This is where a group of 69 retired sporting legends secretly vote via a ballot, and the Academy ensures that selections are merit-based, free from fan-driven popularity biases. Um, and yeah, you're just basically selected at random by other sports legends. And Kelly
other
won.
sports legends, huh? That's cool, man.
Yeah, yeah. So congrats, Kelly, Lifetime Achievement Award, Laureus.
That's pretty amazing. Okay. Well,
When was the last time you wore a tux, Scott? Kelly Slater looks great in a tuxedo.
man, last time I wore a tuxedo, an actual tuxedo, was probably like my brother's wedding in the 90s,
Oh my
I'm guessing.
gosh,
Because
30
I was
years
in
ago.
I think I was in the wedding. Well, I was in the wedding. Yeah. I'm not a big
Um,
tux guy. I don't own a tux.
okay. So if you ever wear a tux again, it'll be a rental.
Yeah, the last wedding I went to, I just wore one of my nice suits, which I
Yeah.
have some suits, but tuxes are uncomfortable, man.
I don't know. I actually got a tux. I wore a tux to my own wedding, and then also friends were got married on New Year's Eve, and it was a black tie thing, and so I got a tux for that. And gotta say, when it fits your body, really comfortable.
I'm gonna question that. I don't know, but let me ask you this. I
I
want to
don't
know
know that
about
it
your
fit. I don't know
I
that it
want
fits
to
my body anymore, but
I want to know about your wedding. Did you wear shoes with your tux? I sense that you went barefoot
it was
with the
on the
tux.
beach,
Yeah, I know.
and I wore shoes.
Oh, I actually have photos of me in a tux on the beach with no shoes.
Was that your wedding?
No, it was some family photo my dad
Uh,
had us take when we were in high school.
um, Final kind of story for this week is surfing in Utah. There's two stories.
Yes. Okay,
Two
well, yeah, go ahead.
two stories coming out of Utah. Um, Chris Ruddy has been shaping surfboards in Utah, building boards, not just shaping, but also laminating boards in Utah for the last few years. And this, I interviewed him a while ago, and we discussed it at length if you want to go back and listen to that. But basically, due to economic factors, kind of got driven out of San Diego and figured out he was able to do it in Utah really well, and then just pick up blanks in Southern California, drive them out to Utah, and then drive and deliver boards, finished boards back to retailers in Southern California. And it just works out better than doing it in Southern California. So he's been there for a while. He started doing an invitational, a wake surf invitational, where he invites surfers to come out. They have incredible wake boats now where you can fill up a ballast, or multiple ballasts on various sides to create varying size waves and length of waves. and they're totally surfable and fun. And so he's been experimenting with wake surf boards that he's shaping and designing specifically for the wake. And now has gotten to the point where he's doing an invitational longboard event where he has, invites out world-class longboarders. Cash Hoover, who just won the Noosa event, came out. Corey Colapinto, who we all love, came out from Southern California. And they just do these incredible displays of, hanging 10 forever, basically on an endless wake. So it's really cool to see. So that's one story that just wrapped up a week or two ago. But then also in the last week or two, zionshores.com just announced that they are developing an 18-acre lake and residential community with luxury homes built around it under the shadow of Zion National Park. So this incredibly beautiful environment that'll now have a giant wave pool with perfect swell technology.
Why am I so drawn to this one wave pool? When I found out about this wave pool last week, first of all, I've been to St. George a bunch of times. I like Southern Utah. I think it's killer. It seems like for whatever reason, it seems a little bit, maybe it seems a little more middle class than Palm Springs. Like I'm just drawn to this wave pool in this community that isn't built yet, and St. George and Utah in general, more than I am to like one in Palm Springs. And I don't know why, because I would love to go to, and I think it's because of the cost, actually, because I don't think I can afford Palm Springs. But I love the idea of playing golf in Palm Springs and surfing in Palm Springs. But you can play golf in Southern Utah and surf in Southern Utah. And it seems a little bit, I don't know. I'm not sure why, but I'm fascinated by this one.
So I love it as well. I've really fallen in love with that area.
Yeah.
For a number of years, for my birthday, we would go to Zion.
Yeah.
And it's about an 8-hour drive from Southern California. And basically, I would tell my family, like, hey, whoever wants to come. I'm going to go for a week. If you want to come just for 3 days, that's fine, whatever. We'll get an Airbnb. And if we have too many people, you can get your own Airbnb or stay in a hotel nearby or whatever. And it was an open invite. And then we would go hike through Zion National Park. So I fully love that place. I think your attraction to it might have to do with something more spiritual. Like there's just something unique about that part of the world. Visually, it's stunning.
Well, as you know, like the hot move for me is to fly into Vegas, rent a car, and then you drive through that Virgin River Gorge, and all of a sudden, that's beautiful in and of itself.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you're in the area basically where you're talking about. And for years as a kid, we would go skiing at Bryan Head, which is just up from St. George right there,
Yeah, my dad and I skied Bryan Head a few years back, and it was like unbelievable.
You know what? Great place for Austin. It's a great family mountain.
It was the story behind Bryan Head's kind of interesting in that they anticipated it would be like the next Telluride or Aspen. And so they built out like all of the condos and all this stuff, like in this little small area looking up at the mountains. And the mountains are huge. Like the developed runs are like, there's two kind of opposing mountains as I remember. And so it's vast. Yeah. And then the people just never really came. So it never turned into Aspen or Telluride. But those things are still there and they're operational enough. It's not a ghost town at all, but you can get a condo for $100 and lift tickets are $40 midweek, as opposed to the hundreds and thousands that you would spend at those other locations. And the conditions are every bit as good.
Yeah. It's not quite as big, those mountains, but there's a lot of terrain and, not super expert, but there's some moments, so a guy that my dad went to college with owned Bryan Head. So we would go to Bryan Head every year. This was in the 80s because of my dad's connection. My dad went to the Naval Academy. This guy was a Naval Academy grad. His name was Brian Nichols. And he would have a Naval Academy weekend or week where all of these alumni from that class would show up. And so that's my connection with Bryan Head and why I love Southern Utah so much.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, I love it too. So now you can go surf there.
I'm stoked.
I just looked it up. The drive time from Vegas to St. George is 1 hour and 45 minutes.
That's perfect.
Fly
into Vegas, get a rent a car, immediately leave Vegas as quickly as you humanly possibly can.
I was mistaken when I said 8 hours from Southern California. That makes it only about 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, cool.
It's for sure drivable. Yeah.
All right, well, go to zionshores.com if you want to lock up some real estate. You can
And I
buy
want to go to Zion. I want to go to the national park.
Zion's
That
insane,
place is
dude.
insane. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cut your arm off.
Well, my my Duke of the Week.
Yes.
Forget it. Duke of the Week and Must See Moment. Must See Moment presented by Trees Wax, petroleum free, surf
Yeah.
wax. Tom Myers in Sydney. We have not talked yet about this swell that hit Sydney a week ago.
Oh
But
my God, that guy
holy
got
cow.
yes, insane. That guy got the wave of his lifetime.
Tom Myers, dude, local working class hero. What?
Yeah.
This is what we love. To
Yes.
see like for the swell of a lifetime to show up and for the clip of the swell to not be the local pro.
Yeah.
It's the local ripper
He's like the
who's
local
just
Bricky. You know, he's like
exactly.
yeah, he's like tipping back schooners of new at the hotel, and then the swell arrives, and he's like, "I've been surfing out here for 40 years. Watch this." Friggin' knifes into a sick one, just gets completely spat upon, fire hosed out of an insane balmy barrel.
It's the clip. When I saw the clip, I was like, what? And then looked into the story. Here's an interview from Tom Myers himself that they posted on Surfline.
Swell started just like any other. Woke up, went and checked Queenie Bommy from Freshy Headland with one of my best mates, Kai. It looked too big for the beaches and saw all the boys heading out there, so I just thought, yeah, that's a spot to be. So pretty bad sinus infection. So I had to take heaps of tablets, and I couldn't even go like half a metre underwater without like intense pain in my forehead and that. So I just wanted to play it safe. That good one came, all the plans of playing it safe just went out the window. It just looked like too rare a wave, and I was in the perfect spot. I must have taken 3 or 4 strokes to get into it. Bottom turn, I just saw this thing throwing out, and luckily it just pitched so hard that I could just squeeze under the lip. And 2 of my good mates, Max Dodgson and Sammy Jones, were on the shoulder, and when I was in the pit, I could just hear them screaming like they were just willing me to hang on, and I couldn't see a thing. It was just a complete whiteout when it spat, and the boys sprint paddled down to me. We were just hugging and we're just pinching ourselves. Super special to have those 2 blokes who I really respect, and I really think they're some of the best big wave riders, not in Australia but the world. So to have them there meant a lot to me. Stoked that my friends and my family, my wife, my kids, my dad, like they all just seem really proud, and yeah, to make them proud, I'm just so happy. And yeah, thanks to everyone that's given me the nice words.
Amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Love to see it.
Pretty Australian of him to not be too tall of a poppy, and to make sure to include his friends and give them proper kudos, and keep the whole middle class together as one.
Love it. Congrats, Tom Myers. He did it.
Congrats, Tom. You're our Duke. Well deserved, and must see moment as well, presented by Trees Wax.
There's a couple waves from that swell that would be must see moments, but it just blew my mind.
Yeah,
I've never seen Sydney like that.
Great story.
Also want to acknowledge yesterday was Earth Day. So I thought it'd be nice to shine some love and some light on a couple of earth conscious surfboard builders. Also, Surf Rider Foundation, of course. Go become a member. Support Surf Rider Foundation for the benefit of Earth and humanity. Surfrider.org. Ryan Harris out of the South Bay of Los Angeles is always kind of focused on eco efforts. And so he posted a clip where he has this pulverizing machine where he pulverizes waste and then incorporates it into surfboard manufacturing. And so he had, I don't know how, ended up with windmills that would end up either, in a landfill somewhere, presumably, but instead pulverizes it into a matter that he uses to bind fin boxes when he's setting fin boxes. And it works incredibly well. They're super hard, great binder, and just upcycling stuff like that. So shout out to Ryan Harris, and then also our friends Tim Pony over in Maui, who are just constantly iterating and working on incorporating more recycled materials, hemps, bioresins into their surfboard constructions without sacrificing any performance at all. So check out Timponi surfboards as well if you're interested in a eco-friendly surfboard.
Right on. Good stuff. Thanks for being earth conscious. It's important.
It's important to acknowledge and make efforts towards bettering, improving on.
Yeah. Oh, show. All right. Well, look, David, feel like we've said a lot. We've discussed a lot. A lot's been talked about. Until next time, adios and aloha.